Guys, stop using your girlfriend's shampoo. Please get your own Dove Men Plus Care. It's available only at Walmart. Matt Chatham played in the NFL for 7 years, 5 with the Patriots, and was able to accumulate 3 Super Bowl rings. He does some Patriots broadcast network stuff. He's a very, very, very bright guy who writes for The Athletic. Do we have a crisis in New England? I know that sounds weird at 9-1 via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. Matt Chatham is joining us. Listen, they don't have a vertical threat. They don't throw much to Ben Watson at tight end. You know, it's easy. I watch them, and I'm like, man, it's a little bit of a pop gun offense. Brady was grumpy Brady after the game, Matt. Is this a Super Bowl offense, or is it just too limited?
Yeah, I don't see them as limited. I think one of the things you did see in game yesterday was when a couple people went down. Dorsett, I mean, he's a 4-3 guy. He's certainly a vertical guy, and he comes up in sort of their gimmick portions of games. He's a complementary player. There's your vertical element, but your vertical element isn't your lead element. Watson, I'm kind of intrigued about where that might go. 2 targets yesterday. They hit on him a couple of times, but you're right. It's certainly not a reliance issue. It's not as if the tight end's a big spot as we've seen in the years past. So I think what we're looking at here is, I'll think again to a year ago. The Tennessee game looked pretty bad within a few days of this right now in November. Steelers game, just 10 on the road. It was really ugly then. But then you always have to sort of have that finger around your, sort of string around your finger kind of idea that then they entered the playoffs against a Chargers defense that was hot, absolutely annihilated them, 7 drives in a row kind of thing. Then go to Kansas City again, gangbusters. So this is always sort of a work in progress kind of place. Clearly yesterday was not good enough offensively. They're going to be hard on themselves, but it's a big transition time. First time since Washington, they've been out there with 2 tight ends. Matt LaCosse gets his first action. In game, Mohamed Sanu twists his knee up in the middle of the second quarter on a punt return and sort of becomes non-factor in the offense. They stop targeting him. The other guy opposite him is N'Keal Harry, and he's a rookie. It was his first action, and Dorsett got knocked out in game with a head thing. So, I mean, it was definitely all hands on deck in a game against a pretty solid defense. So I would just sort of hold that game as its own, and we'll see what else happens from here.
It's the Gronk thing. I'm sure it's a great, radio topic, but I do think there's some relevancy. I saw him yesterday, and I said, you're not a blocking tight end anymore, but you look like I could set you out wide. When you hear the Gronk stuff, Matt, and you see this offense, it kind of feels like they would make a call or two to him, wouldn't they?
It'd be interesting to see where his head's at. I have a hard time buying that you would do as many different marketing opportunities he has to transform his body as much as he has. And you've hit on the nail here there, Colin. I would say if a guy is, we know him as a 265-pound man. He's walking the streets as a 240. It's a bit speculative that, comes in as a flexed out tight end if he's ready to roll. But what was always so wonderful about him is that he was able to flex at the 265. If you're now flexed to 240 and you're still a footed, I guess as you would be as a 270-pound man, I don't know, is the advantage still there? Or does a guy like that who's sort of in a transition with his body take a month to get up to speed? And is that helpful, in the middle of November now? So I think the idea of Gronk in that kind of, 19th hole kind of portion of his career would be interesting for a full season. I'm just not sure if you can project that into December if you were, to make the decision to arrive. Would it help? Maybe eventually, but right off the bat, I think it's a bit of a wild card.
When you hear, I watched Tom yesterday. Isaiah Wynn's coming back. I think beyond the lack of a consistent sort of a playmaker on the outside, I worry about left tackle. It looked like Tom last night worried about left tackle. He got rid of that ball a step early all night. Is Brady okay? We know he's good, Matt. That goes without saying. Do you see a gradual erosion, though? Like last night, he just didn't want to get popped. What do you make of Brady's age? 46, 47, wants to play. Do you buy any of that stuff?
What I do with last night is sort of say that was a really bad night by Tom, and I don't like to try to connect it to something beyond that, because if you could do that in a bubble, I think there's probably half a dozen other times where if you took a singular performance and said, well, I know what the birth certificate says, and that performance wasn't good, so therefore we're in the middle of a downward thing. It just doesn't happen that way. I think with Tom, I think in the event that he has some stinkers, which I think he would acknowledge he did a night ago, you touched on sort of the idea of quick throws and sort of dumping out of plays quite often. I thought the screen game was really ragged, which kind of sounds silly to bag on a quarterback about screen throws, but he seemed real jittery with the screens. Wanted to get rid of it a little too quickly, throwing some lasers from 4 yards away from people. They were uncatchable. So if he's starting to feel pressure and doesn't like that play concept, okay, you maybe you move away from it. But one of the things I did notice in his struggles was the stuff that was coming out of play action, where he'd come out of the fake, turn from mesh, and next thing you know, it's in his face. And in those moments, he's not slide and reset. It was dump it, get out of the play.
Yeah.
So in saying that, then don't do those kind of plays. I think in what you're seeing there is a team that had chosen to pressure. They're coming one way or the other. So the play action fake doesn't affect them. They could care less. So that's the moment where Tom, with work and the rest of these guys over the course of a month, you'll look at that pre-snap play and say, well, the play action's not going to help me. I need to get out of that. Maybe I shift everyone open, as he likes to do, and we're just going to go spread now. They killed it for a big chunk of the Baltimore game doing just that. So I think part of it right now, their biggest issue is finding out what works best for them. And when you look at who was on the field the last couple of weeks, it's really sort of a work in progress. I would have it would be a bad chip to take to bet against them figuring out, knowing that you're sort of in step one here of a 7 or 8 week step process.
By the way, Baltimore, you watch them blowing people out. They feel like Carolina to me with Cam about 4 years ago, where there's a Mike Tyson quality where they're looking for knockouts early and they're getting them. If they faced him again, what would you feel like as a New England guy?
I would say Baltimore walks around with one of the most decided advantages in professional football right now, and it's their unusualness. I think if you're, I call college football games as well, and you hit in certain conferences where you have a bit of an outlier kind of approach. Say you're in the American and you catch Navy, once a year. But if you're in that conference, you've got a staff, you've got players that have come up through, their freshman, sophomore, and senior year that have faced it. In professional football, you don't get that. When the other offense is playing some goofy stuff, you get Wednesday, which is in light pads. You get Thursday, which is in half, and Friday a walkthrough. You get 3 professional days to try to figure it out, and it's unlike anything else you see. So I think Baltimore has this exceptional advantage over the field right now for all the people that see them once. Cleveland, they'll see him a lot, and they've now seen him, I believe, 3 times. They were a 2-score winner over them early in the season. It'll be interesting to see how they handle the next time around. But while Baltimore continues to crest here mid-season, I think they're extremely dangerous. They're going to keep knocking people around. What's most intriguing to me, being someone who covers this team, is how are they going to face the really high-end teams that see them the second time? I think that's when you'll learn if this is sustainable. Good stuff. Matt Chatham, Patriots, 3 rings, athletic as well. Great stuff, Matt. Enjoy your work. Thanks for coming on the show. Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it. Yeah, he brings a really interesting point up. You forget this in the NFL. You get a couple of days to practice this. It's the advantage, and you see this all the time. Bill Polian used to say, he goes, when everybody built around Peyton Manning for 12 years. So everybody in our division's like, let's get a pass rusher. You really do. Belichick said this. Nick Saban said this. I build to win the SEC. I build to win my conference. So, Pittsburgh's going to see Lamar Jackson 10 times by the time New England would face him 3. And Cleveland now has seen him 3 times, had more success against him. So, but I kind of feel like Baltimore's Carolina. Doesn't look like anybody. You got this unique sort of athlete, a veteran coach. They're all in. The defense, like that Carolina team, got really hot at the midseason point. So if nothing else, it's driving everybody nuts. And I like new and interesting football. Baltimore's interesting. Baltimore, for about 8 years, it was Aaron Rodgers. Baltimore now, can't take my eyes off them. All right, feel better with M-Drive. Go to mdriveformen.com. The code is HERD, 20% off. mdriveformen.com, HERD. Hour 3 next.